Hello everyone. My name is Mitsunaboy. I am a forensic scientist from the distant dystopian future of the year 1996. And today, we are playing another very special game. This is The Deed. It's a murder mystery game, where you're the one who does the murder. Will we be able to get away with it? Honestly, probably. I have played this game before just for test streams, and it's pretty short and not super difficult. Which is why I've got the entire collection prepared today, not just the first game. But whatever the case may be, we're never gonna find out if we don't hit start. So maybe we should probably do that way, don't we? Alright, pilgrims. Let's watch the intro once. These controls are very standard RPG Maker stuff. We don't have to go over them that badly. Man is too tall. My name is Aaron Bruce. Hello, Bruce. Son of Malcolm Bruce. Hello, Bruce. And I'm sorry. I'm not that sorry though. My name's Aaron Bruce. I have recently discovered that my tyrant of a father intends to disinherit me in favor of my deranged younger sister. My relationship with my family is strained, to say the least. I have decided the time has come for my sister to be removed from this ghastly equation. I intend to put her out of her misery. Unfortunately, my sister never leaves the confines of Dunshiel House, which makes the matter more complicated. I have not visited the family home in quite some time. I can't bear to be in that hellhole for long. However, my presence on the night of my father's 50th birthday will cause no suspicion. Hello, Nava. It's a pleasure to meet you. We are playing The Deed, a game where you do... I must choose the timing and method of the deed. Hey, they did that thing where they say the title of the game in the game. Very carefully. Tonight is the night. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. So as you can see, the stream just started. You didn't miss all that much. We're being inherited, so we've got to kill our sister because she's the one we're losing. Sorry, I don't know English well. I don't know, you seem perfectly comprehensible to me. Oh, 7 hours, George. Who has been responsible for maintaining the gardens? Well, it used to be Big Jack Willis, sir. He's been dead almost a year now. I'll do a little here and there. Can't do much on account of my bad back, though. Well, my sister hasn't offered to help you, then. Oh, Miss Jennifer isn't really the adult type, sir. I know, George. It was a joke. You absolute pawns. You fool. You nincompoop. You incompetence. Oh, very funny, sir. You know how much I love it when the people who pay my bills make fun of me to my face. Ah, the life of a servant. Let's go inside before the ocean comes to Dunshiel. And then we went inside. Riveting. Convert your relatives and search the house for useful objects. Objects are divided into 2 categories. Items of evidence, and weapons. Hi, hello, Ann. Welcome to the stream. We're about to commit murder. You'll only be allowed to pick up 2 objects from around the house before dinner commences, so choose wisely. After dinner, you will have the chance to plant an item of evidence if you wish, and then commit the murder. There are many ways to do the deed. But only the cunning will succeed. Good evening, Mr. Aaron. May I take your coat? Okay, we are forearmed here with the knowledge that we are about to bump someone off, so we know we have to be careful with everything we say. If we keep our coat, we will have more room to hide things on our person. But not taking our coat off after walking in from that torrential downpour would be extremely suspicious. Playing the playboy would get us... Well, it would make us look worse, but it would also make us look dumber. It might help if we, looks less suspicious if we wind up managing to pull off a very clever crime. And it might draw attention away from our actual motives, since you don't need a lot of money to be a dirty little man-whore. Or, of course, we could always just act like a normal person. If nobody has any position they'd like to take, I personally would like to keep our options open, like keeping the coat on. I don't think it would be impossible to talk our way out of it. But then again, I have been wrong about these things in the past. Yeah, now I'm gonna keep the coat. No, I think I will keep my coat. Are you sure, Mr. Aaron? It looks soaked through. I'm quite sure. You're new, aren't you? Sophia is my name. I recognize you from your pictures, Mr. Aaron. I'm not new, exactly. I've been employed by your family for almost a year. It's just that you've never visited before. Yes, well, I'm certainly not going to start talking about... Oh, you have cool emoticons. Thank you! Thank you, thank you, thank you. All of my emoticons were drawn by one Kai V248. As long as we're talking about them, I guess I'll give them a quick shout-out. 1 second. Yeah, Kai is both... Kai is both my emote artist and my debut twin. We debuted the same day, about an hour apart. So naturally, we've been getting along quite well. If you enjoy my content, I cannot request enough that you go give them some attention as well. Even if they never remember to post their freaking Go Live notif, so I'm always missing them. But enough of that. Yeah, as I was saying, there's no good reason to talk about our potential motives with the help. So I'm not going to. My work keeps me very busy, unfortunately. I understand. I've been away from my family since I started this job. You are here now, and I'm sure you are eager to meet with the others. Your father's in the library on your left. That's up from our current position. And your mother's in the parlor, which is on your right. Your sister is upstairs in her room, I think. Thank you for your help, Sophia. You are very welcome, Mr. Aaron. I will be in the kitchen preparing dinner. I will sound the bell when dinner is served. And there we have it. We have now entered into the realm of the free roam. We can wander around the house. We can talk to people, maybe spread some rumors about potential motives other people might have, so we can pull off a frame up. As the game suggested, we could always wander around and try to get our mitts on some evidence or a good murder weapon, because, well, it's not impossible to kill someone with your bare hands. It is less than convenient. It is Father's birthday. I suppose it would be suspicious not to talk to him. You recall this old grandfather clock very well from your childhood. You used to believe that if it ever stopped moving, time itself might stop moving. Your mother has always kept the house populated with a great many plants. It can be very good for people's respiration. Well, I don't look forward to talking to the old man, but they're trying to act natural. Even now, the familiar smell of your father's library fills you with dread as you step inside. You have too many bad memories of this room. Can we pet the dog? Can we pet the dog? Your father's best friend, a hunting dog named Beastie. The dog looks at you for a moment, then walks away when it realizes you have no food. Aw. We can't pet the dog, chat. These shelves are labeled Arts and Culture. These shelves are labeled British History. It is a dark and stormy night. Hello, you old bastard. Hello, Father. My father remains silent for several moments, and a chill seems to pass through the library. When he finally speaks, it is in a quiet and bitter tone. You told me you'd never enter this house again, boy. Why are you here? To see you, of course, Father. Happy birthday. To discuss the inheritance. I know everything. That is none of your concern. I like watching you. I'm trying to understand English thanks to the translator. Oh, there's, did you manage to get your hands on a translation, like, auto software? I find things like that very interesting, please, And I do seem to be building up quite an international audience. So, yeah, feel free to share any info. I know some other VTubers incorporate things like that into their streams. Might be worth looking into. Anyway, the most obvious answer for this dialogue tree would of course be to be polite and inoffensive. But considering what our father is like, it would probably look more suspicious if we wound up getting a bit too friendly, since it's definitely 100% going to come out that he was a, disgusting, abusive slimeball once the investigation starts. To discuss the inheritance, I know everything. That would certainly draw suspicion against us, which would be bad. If we say that's none of your concern, he'll probably stop talking to us. Which, given this old man, is probably our best case scenario. I think that's the path we're going to take here. My reasons for being here are my own. Oh, really? So in other words, there is no purpose to your visit at all. You would at least be happy to see me, Father. You know how to make me happy. Move back to Dungeon. Take your proper place and do your damn duty. Cool game, I certainly agree. You have to let me live my own life. I refuse to move back here and suffer your abuse. I will consider it. My sister is put into care. So all three of these options have us saying that we don't want to Even though doing so is our motive, the question is what our rationale is. We can be polite and sensible. We can explicitly say that our father is abusive, or we can say that we're concerned about our sister's mental health. All three of these options might have implications later down the line. I'm curious which one we should go for. If we say we have our own life to live, that just makes us sound detached from the whole thing, makes us sound like we have less of a motive. If we accuse him of being abusive, we'll talk about the fact that he's abusive. There's a good chance we'll wind up getting into a large row, which could make him look bad, but could also make us look bad. And if we say we're concerned about our sister's health, well, we have already established that she's deranged, whatever that means at this point. It might be that we could plant the idea in people's heads that she's at risk of committing suicide. It's quite curious indeed. I'm not sure what direction I'd like to go in, but generally speaking, suicides are cleaner, more efficient, and generally have their investigations end quicker and with less investigation. So I suppose this would be our best case scenario. I think this is the path we will take. It's a bit early to be making a declaration like this, but if, as we suspect, she is able to be made to look like a suicide, I feel like that would be our best option. I will consider it. If my sister... Okay, that's not actually how we're phrasing it, even though that was what it said on the box. Okay, cool. Cool. I'm not bitter. It's fine. If I were to move back to Dunshale, I would have certain expectations. Oh? And what expectations would those be? Firstly, I refuse to suffer your daily insults. You will need to learn to be more decent towards me. Secondly, I want my sister to be put into care where she belongs. I cannot live with her insanity for another day. You'd like that, wouldn't you, you obnoxious little shit? Selling out your own blood. I don't know what sort of accent I have. I think I'm supposed to be British, but I'm talking like I'm sort of halfway in between a Russian and a Scotsman. I'm very confused by the whole setup. Because on my terms, accent and all, well, you know what you can do with your terms. The nerve of you. You're the same snot-nosed brat you always were, boy. Obviously, I didn't give you enough discipline as a child. This would just sound absolutely absurd. Maybe plenty as I remember. Could maybe, like, make his temper more apparent. But it would involve us, and I've already made up my mind from the seeds we planted earlier that we're trying to look like a suicide. So that wouldn't be the most useful thing. So, I will just cut the feed here. You can see you are determined to be impossible. I think we'd better end this discussion now. You're the impossible one, boy, as always. And I think you're probably right about one thing. This conversation is pointless. Now it's over. Get out. Thing. This is the hefty tome of Bruce family history. Sleepy just looking at it. Desk light provides a soft glow. When your father isn't looking, you quietly open the top drawer of the desk and take a look inside. It seems to be filled with his memorabilia. One of the items sends a shiver through your bones. The cruel leather toys your father used to beat you with when you were a child. Perhaps if you planted it in the right place, it might raise questions. Well, an abusive father would certainly be a good motive for her to commit suicide. But again, for those of you who came in late, the game only lets us collect one piece of evidence for later planting, so it would be presumptive to just grab the first thing we find. I'll leave this here for now. We can come back and get it later, if it comes to that. Now, this is the room where Mother is in. The most beloved of all your mother's possessions. Her rusty old gramophone. Used to play all of her favorite records. There's nothing especially notable about this fireplace. I see you made it, Aaron. My hair is grey, but I don't have a single wrinkle. I'm not sure how old I'm supposed to be. Forgive me if I can't stand. Your mere presence has almost given me a heart attack. Hello, Mother. Please sit down if you want to talk properly, Aaron. I don't want to crane my neck looking up at you. So, Aaron, you finally managed to make it up here for a visit. Please tell me you aren't just here to cause trouble. Option 1 isn't really believable. I'm here to make amends. Trouble is what you all deserve. Sounds a bit abrasive, and again, we want to stay under the radar. So instead I'll just ask, whatever do you mean? I have no idea what you mean, Mother. I am here to celebrate Father's birthday, is all. Oh, I certainly hope that is the case. This family has been through enough. Have you been up to see your sister yet? She's been going through an unusually difficult time recently. Okay. If we can get more info on her condition, we might know how plausible it is to sell the story that she'd wind up offing herself. You sound worried. Do you think it's serious? I've not seen her this bad in a long time, dearie. Sorry, I got to put on my vocal cords. Do you remember that summer when she, with the razor, in the bathroom? It was Mr. Greenan with the razor in the bathroom, yes, I remember. Oh, that was the last time I remember seeing her like this. So yes, to answer your question, I am worried. Anyway, you should go and talk to your father if you haven't already. Wish him a happy birthday. Oh, and at least try to sound like you mean it. Your mother's listening to her music. You know better than to disturb her again. Okay, things settled in. We want a murder weapon that can make it look like a suicide. And some evidence to really solidify the idea that she's about to off herself. I don't mean to make any phone calls right now. You glance over your shoulder to make sure your mother isn't looking. The red book on the desk says diary on the front. If she's the primary caretaker, which is the vibe I got, this could contain something. But it's probably not our best bet. Alright, where do we go now? This is the groundskeeper's cupboard. George seems to have left it open. Among the various household tools, you spot a thick length of rope. Strangulation is certainly a tried and tested method of murder. It's also tied in a noose and commonly used for hanging. Certainly worth keeping in mind. The wooden side table is currently empty. This old stone fireplace has nothing to interest you. One of your mother's prized golden candlesticks sits at the center of the table. It would certainly make for an elegant, traditional murder weapon, but not one people use for suicide. Walking to the pantry, you begin to salivate at the promising taste of roast beef coming from the kitchen beyond. Here we have the kitchen. There's nothing noticeable about this barrel. You find nothing of particular interest among the items in the cabinet. You find nothing interesting on the drawers. On top of the cabinet, however, you see a blue box marked rat poison. Now, poison is the thinking man's weapon. It's slow enough that you have time to walk away. You could easily use it to commit suicide. And since this box is lying out here in the open, it won't cause us any troubles. Then I suppose we should investigate a bit further first. Seems the maid has left a sharp kitchen knife unattended. How foolish of her. Suicide by knife is not unheard of, but it's difficult. Now, the poison would probably be a better option. I have no reason to interfere with the saucepans and crockery, you monster. Why would you do that? There's nothing especially noticeable about this fireplace. Nothing noticeable about this barrel. Please don't touch them. Okay, sorry, lady. Criminate. Back off. Just wanted to talk to you. Oh. Hello, Mr. Aaron. Is there something I can do for you? Well, I want an excuse to talk to you. Actually, I wanted to ask you something about working for my family. Oh? What's it like working for my insane sister? It can't be easy working for someone as mentally unstable as my little sister. Miss Jennifer can be unpredictable at times, but that only makes the day more interesting. She hasn't done anyone any harm lately, then. Only herself, I think. Since I arrived, she seems to do nothing but sit at her writing desk in the drawing room all day. Apparently that wasn't the case before. Certainly hope I haven't done anything to cause it. I'm sorry, I must get back to work now. I will ring the bell when dinner is ready. Alright, what's in here? You decide that now is not the time for lounging around. There is work to be done. The work is murder. That's the joke. The work is killing people. None of these books interest you. You manage to force open the locked drawer of the writing desk. Inside you find pages of poetry, penned in your sister's handwriting. Seem to be love letters penned to an unidentified female. From the descriptions, you would guess it's the new maid. Interesting. Suicide over unrequited love. Certainly a classic enough story. An assortment of family records and heirlooms are contained within this ornate glass cabinet. Oh god, the sun's going over! No, it's just a flashback. I don't know. Of course you do. Use that head for once, boy. Great Uncle Thomas? What initials do you see on that silverware? CB. What kind of half-wit spells Thomas with a C? I don't know. Well, I do. It's the kind of half-wit that's sitting next to me. Now, which of your ancestors owned that silver chalice? If you get this one wrong, there'll be serious consequences, boy. I'll say one thing for my father. His style of parenting has always been consistent. It is a tragedy. I almost wish we decided to frame him instead, but we don't need to move in until he's gone, so I suppose this is fine. There's nothing on this old lectern. What's upstairs? And this pillar does not actually exist, or just hallucinating. Your parents' room has not changed in years. It remains a frozen time capsule of a childhood you would sooner forget. You get down on all fours and peek underneath your parents' bed, but find nothing there. It's just an old chair. But it's a chair full of memories. Chair of Memories is my favorite Kingdom Hearts game. George said you wanted to see me, Mother. Yes. I always sounded like this even before I went grey. Your sister will not be returning to St. Mary's this year, Aaron. Her condition has become too serious. I see. Have you nothing to say besides that, Aaron? No. Nothing. Oh, this is precisely what I wanted to talk to you about. This silly feud with your sister must stop. Why do you think your condition keeps getting worse? Perhaps it's because you refuse to even acknowledge her. She killed Henry. Oh, for heaven's sake, Aaron, it was only a rat. He was my friend. Oh, I should never have allowed you to keep it in the first place. If you must blame someone, blame me. Will you forgive your sister? Never. Very well, Aaron. You leave me no choice. I will have to speak to your father about this. This house always brings back far too many memories. When you're totally alone in the world, you latch onto things. And when even what little you have gets taken away, you can't really blame people for deciding all they have left is vengeance. Violence breeds violence, as they say. But in the end, it has to be this way. Anyway, you go through the wardrobe but find nothing apart from clothes and your mother's excessive collection of jewelry. It's only once you slide the top drawer open that you remember this is where your father keeps a shotgun. The shiny barrel almost seems to call out to you. Guns are certainly noisy but efficient weapons. Certainly efficient, but I don't think the noise would be worth it. It's certainly possible to commit suicide by putting a shotgun in your mouth, but we could accomplish the same effect with less noise by hanging her using poison, both of which we've already seen options. Maybe later. Another of your mother's blasted plants! Mitsuda, you're cute, and you... It's quiet, you I am not. I want to draw you, but when I'm done, I can't say for sure. Oh, well, certainly, I love to get fan art. I don't have enough of it. Oh, you look at your reflection in the mirror. Funny. You don't look much like a murderer. Hehehe. I don't know if I'd like that. Technically I do have an art tag, but, no one uses it, so I never post it, and I never post it because no one uses it, so, feel free to, I don't know, just add me or something when it's done. Because I will retweet it, no further questions asked. Anyway, dinner's ready. Go away, little rat. Jennifer, what are you doing? Why do you stare at your reflection like that? Stop making fun of me! I'm not making fun, I really want to know. I just wish that... What, Jennifer? What do you wish? I wish you'd go drown in a lake. Mother is waiting for you. My sister's obsession with mirrors goes right back to her childhood. I did understand why. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. I get the feeling that's supposed to be us projecting, but I'm not 100% sure. This banner depicts your family's coat of arms. You enter the surreal atmosphere of your sister's room. Mirrors of various sizes cover the walls, creating the eerie illusion of a crowded space. So many mirrors. Ornate clocks are your sister's third love, right behind mirrors and cruelty. There's nothing of interest around your sister's bed. Your sister is too busy staring at herself in the mirror to notice you rifling through her wardrobe. You find a pair of silky undergarments with her initials embroidered on the inside. Planted in the right place, these might weave a tale of their own. Fascinating. Fascinating indeed. Anyway. Aha! I thought I smelled a rat. Have you come to see me, little rat? Oh, this lady's so crazy, and we plan on murdering her before the police arrive, because that's the nature of... Sorry, I can't go back to my neutral face because the hotkey I have it set up to is apparently also one of the select buttons. I guess this is a bit more appropriate. Anyway, we could be a bit more judicious with her. But we shouldn't get too crazy, just in case she talks to someone else before we get done strangling her. I guess I'll just ask how her feeling, get a read on what she might motivate her to off herself. Hello, Jennifer. How have you been? How have I been? What an odd thing for a little rat to ask. Normally they just say squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak. You used to have a pet rat, didn't you? Remember what I did to him? Oh, how he squeaked. Such great pain for such a little creature. He was just a little creature. You can't control that. But did you want to talk to me about little rats? Oh, I see you're still collecting mirrors. Oh, I just came to see how your mirror collection is getting on. How many do you have now? 73. Yeah, one more if I could have made a SpongeBob joke. Too bad. Can you use all of them at once? Of course not, what a silly question. Are you making fun of my mirrors, little rats? You'd better not be. Go away. I don't want to speak to you anymore. Okay. The process of elimination dictates that this is probably my room. You step inside your former bedroom, now a simple guest room. Most real furniture is finished. Probably thrown on a bonfire, knowing your father. Absolutely fascinating. There's at least one item of yours remaining in your former room. Your old fencing sword. At least this is a weapon with which you're very well practiced. Obviously, I'm not going to use this because I've spent so much time collecting info and planting seeds for the suicide case. But if I'm feeling extra flash in a later playthrough, I'd be very interested to see if the game would acknowledge the plan of deliberately setting it up to make it look like you're framed in order to create the impression that you aren't the culprit by overturning the evidence against you. The obvious evidence against you, rather, while leaving more subtle evidence against someone else. Worth considering. You don't have time to sit around and dig up old memories. The old bed. So many memories of long, sleepless nights, spent wishing that your entire family would just disappear. Yeah, I feel that. I know, your bedside table's been emptied of whatever items you had left behind. This wardrobe is vacant and barren. Alright, that's 2/3 of the floors down. Have a good stream and game. I'd like to stay here for longer, but my body wants to sleep. That's understandable. That seems more important. Thank you for showing up on. I hope you enjoyed. This dusty old wine cellar is where your father loves to practice billiards. The laundry room is next door, and beyond that is the servants' quarters. A billiards cue belonging to your father lies across the table. This could certainly serve as an unorthodox murder weapon. I don't want to be unorthodox for its own sake. No greater grief than to remember days of joy when misery is at hand. All is vanity. A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. My father always keeps an impressive amount of wine stocked in the house. All is vanity, and yet it is for that vanity that we shall rub out innocent life. Well, not an innocent life. She did abuse a small animal for no reason. Really, isn't that a crime deserving of death? I find nothing in these drawers but uses cleaning supplies. Nothing here but wet laundry. There's nothing in here but wet laundry. Nothing of interest among the maid's supplies. 2 pairs of shoes, freshly polished. The maid has left a broken broom leaning against a wooden broom leaning against the room, broken in two. It might be a useful weapon. But why would I want that? You can run through George's drawers while he's watching you. Nothing much on the desk. You aren't in the habit of sleeping in the servants' quarters. Oh, hello, sir. What can I do for you? You seem quite distressed about something. I do? Well, I'm sure it's nothing you should trouble yourself with, sir. Oh, come now, George. We've known each other for many years. If something is troubling you, I want to hear of it. Ah, if you insist, sir. Ever since the new maid arrived, I feel like I'm being nudged towards early retirement. She's obviously been trained to become the new housekeeper. She's taken over responsibilities one by one. I've tried discussing the matter with your mother, but it's no use. She hasn't been herself lately either. Oh, but please don't trouble yourself about it, sir. I should have said anything at all. The maid does not factor into my plans at all. What's wrong with my mother? In what way is my mother not herself? Ever since your sister's condition has become worse, your mother's become rather cold and withdrawn. Your sister's gone through difficult spells before, but it's never affected your mother quite like this. There's a darkness that I've never seen in there before. Oh, I should say no more, excuse me, sir. Yeah, that's not quite the direction I wanted to point in, but every bit of evidence that isn't on me. Alright, I think that's the entire case. Or the entire house, rather, so now... Question of the hour is, what do we want to do from here? If... as some ancient alien theorists believe... So looking at the evidence I've found thus far... Our choice of murder weapons comes down to poison, rope, maybe Dad's shotgun. If no one else has any opinions, I think the best case scenario would be the poison. The fact that we stepped in here and talked to the maid already. Sophia, your name is? Maid using an exasperated glance as she moves her pots and pans around. She's obviously busy for any more idle chatter. The fact that we talked to her puts us near here is a bit suspicious, but we made some, I believe, believable small talk. And the rat poison is separated by another door. So we should be fine to just grab this and expect people to believe Sophia took it. Do you want to take the rat poison? Remember, you can only pick up 2 objects. You take the rat poison and hide it on your person. Yes, poison is a nice, clean weapon. At least all those murder stories used to read. Now, the question of the hour. How do we really solidify the idea in people's heads that this was a murder case? That this was a suicide case? Can't leave now, there's work to be done. Let's see. There's Papa's beaten stick in the library. There is... What am I trying to say? There's Le Poisson. There are love letters written in our future victim's hand in here in the, what is this, the parlor, the drawing room? I don't remember. I think that's the drawing room. And there's Mother's diary, which should dictate the fact that she's getting progressively worse and worse. Drawing attention to any of those would create the impression that she is crazed and has a good reason to want to leave this planet. But... Okay, so here's my thought. We know the diary pages. We know Mother, rather, let me put in order. We know Mother is getting very stressed out and, quite frankly, angered by how bad Sister Jennifer's, performance has gotten. We know that... Okay, we don't know, but it seems a safe assumption that that's going to come up in her diary. Ergo, if we plant pages from her diary, or just her entire diary, in our little lady's room, it would sound like she has no support network whatsoever, ergo she would really want to off herself. Ergo, we can all go home. I think we have an evil plan. So, take your mother's diary. Yes, I'm sure. You snatch the diary, and with your back turned to your mother, you have a quick leaf through. In recent pages, she writes about the difficulties in caring for someone with your sister's condition, and how she wishes it would all end. I realize this could look quite incriminating out of context. You remove the last 2 pages from the diary and place it back where it was. And there's the dinner bell. Again, a bell invites me. It's time to dinner, it seems. Dinner is served. Sophia, could you come here a moment? Yes, ma'am. Pour me some wine. Yes, ma'am. But madam... Oh, what is it, George? I must protest. It's always my duty to pour the wine at dinner. Oh, well, I don't want to cause any trouble. Oh, nonsense. What does it matter, George? Stop being overly pedantic. Alright, so we know George and the maid are at conflict. We know Jennifer has a massive crush on Sophia. I'm coming up with a pretty complicated plan for our next stream. And as we all know, complicated plans are more fun. But that's not the point of it this time. Let's talk. Let's side with our friend. Let's play the good guy. Just let him pour the damn wine, would you? It's his job. You stay out of it, boy. If your mother wants a girl to pour the damn wine, then the girl will pour the damn wine. Of course, sir. My apologies. And interfering, little rat, isn't he, Daddy? Yes, he is. Why can't you ever keep your mouth shut, boy? Perhaps I did speak out of turn. I apologize. You're right, I'm sorry. I must have had too much wine myself. Provoking Dad into getting into a big row in front of everyone at dinner would be a very good point for making him out to be the bad guy. But it's not what we've set up today. I better not let it happen again. Sophia, could you come here, please? Yes, Miss Jennifer? I just wanted to say that was the loveliest meal I've ever tasted. I don't know how you do it, you cunning pixie. You are too kind, miss. Of course, I will have tea and cakes for you in the drawing room as usual after dinner. Oh, you are so good to me, you sweet thing. So very, very good to me. Oh, ho, 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 ho. We can put a hole in her relationships. Sophia isn't interested in your advances, sister. I'll leave the girl alone, would you, sister? She's obviously not interested in your advances. Shut up. Shut up, rat! You ruin everything! Aaron, don't accuse your sister of such things. That's quite enough, dearie. Anyway, let's not forget why we're here today. Celebrate your father's birthday. It's a very important occasion for us all. You are so dear to us, Malcolm. Happy birthday, Daddy. Indeed. Happy birthday, Father. Let's hope it will be one to remember. We're doing the deed now. Now is the time to quickly plant any items of evidence you have. To do so, simply enter the desired room and select the item in your inventory. When you're ready, enter the drawing room and do the deed. Right, she's in there. Alright, we have a pretty simple plan, but hey, the simple plans are usually ones that work. Every point of evidence is a point suspicion. We would plant the damning pages from Mother's diary in Sister's room to make it look like she knows that her own parents hated her. Father would be able to make a case very easily, without needing evidence. They tell me that Jennifer's condition is likely to only get worse. I don't know how I can go on this way. Sometimes I wish she had never been born. I don't know if I'm overthinking things, if the game has actually got this complicated. But if the need arises, suicide is also the answer that leaves the least question of if something could have been framed. If I were, say, trying to make it look like Mother had done so, they would have to question if us finding these letters in such a suspicious place would have been planted evidence. But nobody's going to think that. Or at least people are going to have much less cause to think that. Let's not oversell ourselves. We're going to go to jail if this doesn't work. We have to be a bit paranoid. If it looks like a suicide, I forgot most of that sentence up to the You get my point. Do you want to plant this item of evidence in this room? Yes, I do. You decided that your sister's wardrobe is the ideal location to plant some evidence. The police will definitely search the room thoroughly. Alright, that's that. Nothing left to do but do the deed. Sure you want to enter the drawing room? Once inside, there's no turn back. You see Jennifer, staring at the window ahead of you, lost in one of her strange moods. She hasn't noticed you enter the drawing room. Now is the time. Choose the murder weapon. Hypothetically speaking, if we wanted to show off, we could do it with our hands, but we brought the poison for a reason. Poison. The silent weapon of an intelligent killer. Sprinkled over the cakes on the table, it could easily be mistaken for a frosting of sugar. You know, it's really convenient if there were cakes there, because, that could have easily not happened. And what would we have done? Having added a generous portion of your special topping to the cakes, you step back into the shadows and watch to make sure she eats them. Sure enough, she soon turns to the plate and devours 2 of them in quick succession. The poison works surprisingly quickly. She begins to choke, and her skin turns green. Finally, she falls to the ground in front of you. You examine her body to make sure she isn't breathing, before placing the container of poison on the desk. Deed is done. It's time to leave this room before someone discovers it. Oh god, 20 seconds. Father. We hate Father and Father hates us, so if he gives us, if he vouches for our presence, and I have enough to say to you, boy, it'll look suspicious. Alright then. Get away, boy, that chair's for the dog. That sounds like my deed has been discovered. I don't know, Chad, I'm feeling pretty good about this one. How about you all? Man, I'd be a great criminal. If only the game had some way to lock the room on our way out. Good evening, everyone. I am Chief Inspector Winston Lewis. I understand that this is a difficult time for your family. Oh, damn right it is! I want to know what you're doing wasting time in here while my daughter's killer is still out there. Well, Mr. Bruce, I found no evidence of forced entry, and nobody entered or left. I thought it would seem entirely possible then the killer is in this room. Oh, what? No. That seems highly unlikely, Inspector. Yes, it is. However, in order to follow protocol, I will have to interview each of you in turn. Mrs. Bruce, if you'd like to meet me in the library first. I suppose so. Time for the interview. Alright, just stay calm, play the mask of sanity, don't bring up your motive, and answer the questions he asks you the way you want them answered. Thank you for joining me in here, Mr. Bruce. Sure, this won't take long. Before we begin, I will need to search your person best to get these formalities out of the way. Is this really necessary? I'm afraid so. Turn around, please. Now that's out of the way, let's move on to the interview. As you know, I've already spoken to everyone else who was present in the house at the time of your sister's death. We've also now completed our initial search of the house, but we'll get to that later. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? First of all, we will run through all of your activities since your arrival. The maid says that you and the butler arrived shortly after 7 o'clock, and she greeted you at the door. She told me that you refused to give her your coat, and she found that quite peculiar. I wasn't sure how long I would be staying. We're here to celebrate a birthday. That doesn't make sense. This is just obviously evasive. It's going to make us look suspicious. I say I didn't want to get cold. This is a very draughty old house. Last time I visited, I caught a severe cold, and I didn't want it to happen again. I suppose that makes sense. Let's move on. Poison, we didn't actually need the coats. We wound up taking the poison, so that shouldn't make us any more suspicious. Later, you went to speak to the maid again and was curious. Why did you decide to visit the kitchen? Well, she must have said what I said, so let's make sure my family was treating her well. I had some concerns about the way she was being treated. My family can be hard on the new staff sometimes. That seems like a good reason. She said that you spoke about your sister and her deteriorating mental state. Well, you see, Inspector, I knew my sister was having a poor mental state. It's very sad, really. I was aware that my sister's condition had deteriorated since the new maid's arrival. I felt I should investigate the subject. So the maid seems to have had a negative impact on her sister's health somehow? We'll take note of that. Later on, you had a conversation with your mother, Gloria, in the parlor. She says you spoke briefly about your sister. Apparently you seemed quite concerned about her well-being. Well, yes. We were worried my sister might attempt suicide. My mother and I were concerned that my sister might try to take her own life, as she had attempted once before. She had she? I will take note of that. You went to see your father in the library. I understand your conversation being quite heated. Oh, well, my father has always had a temper. My father had a very short fuse. Many of our conversations go that way. Would you say he has a violent temper? Oh, absolutely. I see. It's good to know. You discussed the prospect of moving back to Dungiel. You said you would only move back if your sister was placed in psychiatric care. Well, yes, for her own well-being, of course. I had her own best interests at heart. She belongs in care. You may be right, Mr. Bruce. However, you seem to be the only one who felt that way. Let's discuss your conversation with the butler. Spoke about your mother's recent moods, yes? Well, no, the diary does state I seemed very worried about her. Yes, my mother was having a very hard time dealing with my sister's condition, apparently. It sounded like she had been pushed to the breaking point. Interesting. Did you speak to your sister before dinner? I shouldn't be able to prove anything one way or the other, but just in case, yes, I went to her room to see her. I see, and what did you discuss with her? Oh, we discussed her illness and her And we spoke about her condition. I was aware that she was going through a particularly difficult period. Had she seemed distressed to you? Yes, you could say that. She was not in a good place mentally speaking. I see. Let's move on to the events that took place during dinner. I understand there was an argument involving the butler. You had been treated unfairly. Uh, yes, someone has to stand up for servants around here. My family treats them like dirt. Indeed. It's good of you to do so, Mr. Bruce. Apparently, you accused your sister of making unwanted advances towards the maid. Well, someone needed to talk to her. I felt I needed to call attention to it. She was just embarrassing herself. So, your sister had strong feelings for the maid. Yes, very strong feelings, but I'm not sure the maid knew anything about it. I see. Now, when I ascertained your location at the time of your sister's death, where were you when you heard the maid scream? Oh, well, at the moment I heard the scream, I was on the ground floor. In the library, you see. I was in the library. Yes, that's what your father told me. As I said earlier, we have completed our initial search for the property. During the search, we discovered some pages from your mother's diary. She was having a hard time dealing with your sister's condition. In some places, she even seems to wish for her death. Does that surprise you? Yes, I'm lost for words. I am curious about the murder weapon. The poison had apparently been sprinkled upon some cakes which the maid had prepared. However, you also must have passed through the pantry in order to speak to the maid in the kitchen. Of course, your sister may have done this herself if it was a suicide. It is all very interesting. I will be completely honest with you now, Miss Bruce. While some of your behavior this evening has been peculiar, I could find no cause for any significant suspicion. While there is some suspicion regarding your father, I don't currently regard him as a serious suspect. I also think the evidence surrounding the maid might be worth another look. I think I will be also taking another look at the evidence surrounding your mother. The possibility of suicide must be considered, though I am personally unconvinced. As for what happens next, you can go for now, but I would appreciate it if you did not leave town. I may have more questions for you later. Another interview with the maid will be required also. I will need to be speaking to your mother again. It is possible that an inquest might return a verdict of suicide. We'll see. Oh, that was, split much more evenly than I expected. Although the inspector harbored suspicions about you, you were not brought in for further questioning. Sophia the maid was taken in for questioning and initially became the prime suspect, but it was determined that there was not sufficient evidence to lead to an arrest. You had gotten away with murder, it seemed. However, you had not given them sufficient reason to harbor a suspicion against anyone else either. Your father harbored suspicions of his own. Some years later, you were surprised to see his obituary in a national newspaper, and horrified to learn that he had given his estate and possessions to a trust organization. You had committed this foul act for nothing, and now there was nothing at all to give you comfort in the long nights. And the demon of your past came back to haunt you. Well, I'm surprised that didn't work. They didn't say anything at all about the fact that I planted the diary pages in my sister's room. That's really weird. That seems like a pretty big oversight, game. Alright. Well, I'm bitter, so I'm going to go do the really obvious thing now. Wait, no, shit, I didn't want to... why is that the default? You must know I wanted to skip that. Right, this time I'm gonna make dear old dad take the fall for the crime since he's a deranged psychopath and it would be really easy to make him. Oh dear god, it's still going. I need to keep my coat because I need something I can hide a gun under. My work keeps me busy. My sister's upstairs in her room. Yeah, that old bastard has life. If we act confrontational, he'll fight with us. And when he tells us about that... Because you know the man has no self-control, he's definitely going to spill this of his own accord. When he tells the police about that, it will reinforce the idea that he's an absolute bastard. Move back to Dunshell, so you can insult and torment me at your whim, as you always have done. Not likely, father. Not in 100 years. You still haven't learned to watch your mouth, have you? You're the same snot-nosed brat you always were, boy. Obviously, I didn't give you enough discipline as a child. Oh, I can see you are determined to be impossible. I think we'd better end this discussion here. You're the impossible one, boy, as always, but I think you're probably right about one thing. This conversation is pointless. Now it's over. Get out of here. Of course, but first, let me just borrow your toys. Say hello to Mother. I'm the polite, dutiful son. It'd be weird if I said I didn't want to talk about my own sister. Alright. If we talk to little Miss Maid, we can once again ask about your time here, but this time we'll ask how do you deal with my father's temper. I'm concerned that my father's bad temper doesn't seem to have improved much over the years. Does he give you much abuse? I wouldn't call it abuse, Mr. Aaron. He could certainly be a very demanding employer, but there's nothing wrong with that. Very grateful to have this position. Oh, I'm sorry, I must get back to work now. I'll ring the bell when dinner is ready. When we talked to Georgie Porgy, I didn't see anything involving father, so we'll just not bother talking to him. But instead... Hello, Mr. Shotgun. Are you sure you want to take the shotgun? Yes, I'm sure. You grab the shotgun and conceal it on the inside of your long coat. Having such a powerful weapon on your person makes you feel almost godlike. Again, a bell invites me. So to dinner, it seems. Dinner is served. See, can you come here a moment? I need you to pour me drinks. Madam, I'm in charge of pouring drinks. It's my most lucrative business. Yeah, be polite. Now, don't lose your temper, Father. It'd be terrible if you did something particularly violent. Oh, careful, Father. There's no need to make a scene at dinner. I'll show you a seat. Get over it. Malcolm, please. Let's not permit his behavior to ruin dinner. Yes, I suppose you're right. Gonna count your lucky stars, boy. And then these two. I don't want to talk about these two. And none for me, I'm full. I won't have any, thank you. I couldn't eat another bite. Oh, you weren't offered any, so there. Please, Jennifer, let's try be civil. Anyway, let's not feel like we're here today. Foreshadowing, Alright. Now, would this leather toes would be more suggestive if we planted it in Jennifer's room, or would it be less suspicious if we planted it in dear old Dad's room? One must wonder. One must wonder. I'm gonna put it in here. I don't want to make it too obvious that he's being framed. When your father used to beat you, he never even repeated the old cliche, "This hurts me more than it hurts you." Do you want to plant this item evidence in this room? Yes, I do. You decide to place the item in the wardrobe. That should be easy enough for the police to find. And thus, having established our suspects, all that's left to do is use his gun to do the deed. You see Jennifer staring out of the window ahead of you, lost in one of her strange moods. She hasn't noticed you enter the drawing room. Now's the time. Up. Bye, you little shit. Your sister doesn't seem to notice the audible click as you turn off the safety and aim squarely at the back of her head. You know your father always keeps it ready and loaded. As you pull the trigger, the kick surprises you, but your aim is true enough. The shot impacts with the back of her head, and blood sprays on the opposite wall. You drop the shotgun on the ground. Someone will be here very soon, surely. You don't have much time to escape this room. Damn it, she's going to see me! Did you hear that, Miss Aaron? Alright, this isn't game over. We can just claim we also heard the shot and we're on our way running downstairs from the guest bedroom. There's nothing suspicious about that. Everything is fine. Everything is going to be fine. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chief Inspector Winston Lewis. Well, Mr. Bruce, we found no evidence of forced entry, and nobody was seen entering or leaving the house, so it would seem entirely possible that the killer is in this room. Thank you for joining me in here, Mr. Bruce. I'm sure this won't take long. Before we begin, I will need to search your person, get the formalities out of the way. Yep. I didn't let them take my coat this time. Had some concerns about the way she was being treated. I wanted to make sure I understand the two of you spoke about your father and his temper. My father has a vicious temper. I wanted to make sure he wasn't making her life miserable. I see. Has he always had a temper? Yes, always. Later on, you had a conversation with your mother Gloria in the parlor. She says you spoke briefly about your sister. Apparently, you seemed quite concerned about her well-being. I almost wanted direct attention away from the suicide possibility just to make sure my one story is the most sensible, but I don't see how it would make sense after what we actually said. And my mother and I were concerned that my sister might try to take her own life, as she had attempted once before. She had she? I'll take note of that. Good to see your father in the library. I understand your conversation became quite heated. My father has a very short fuse. Many of our conversations go that way. Would you say he has a violent temper? Absolutely. I see. It's good to know. You discussed the prospect of your moving back to Dunshiel. You refuse to do so under any circumstances, I understand. Well, what I said at the time was... Of course, I hated every moment that I lived in this house. I see. Do you hate your family, Mr. Bruce? That's not what I said. Right, of course. I, in fact, did not. No, I didn't see Jennifer until dinner. Very well, then. Let's move on to the events that took place during dinner. I understand there was an argument involving the butler. You felt he was being treated unfairly. Well, you know, they always treat the servants poorly. That was nothing out of the ordinary. Your father often loses his temper at dinner. My father loses his temper no matter where he is. I see. Now we need to ascertain your location at the time of your sister's death. Where were you when you heard the maid scream? Well, at the moment the scream rang out, I was on the ground floor. Oh god, all of these rooms sound the same. I think I'd made it to the West Wing. I was in the foyer. As the maid mentioned seeing you in there, that does put you quite close to the scene of the murder, I'm afraid. Oh, you're afraid, are you? As I said earlier, we've completed our initial search of the property. The search did not turn up any items which oh, you son of a bitch. I'm curious about the murder weapon. The shotgun which was used to murder your sister was obviously owned by your father. Obviously he knew how to use it. However, this could just as easily have been a suicide, it's hard to say. Didn't I shoot her in the back of the head? It's all very interesting. I'll be completely honest with you now, Mr. Bruce. While some of your behavior this evening has been peculiar, I can find no cause for any significant suspicion. However, the evidence against your father seems very compelling indeed. Despite her condition, I don't believe your sister committed suicide. As for what happens next... You can go for now, but I would appreciate it if you did not leave town. I may have more questions for you later. I will be arresting your father shortly. A verdict of suicide seems unlikely, I'm afraid. Although the inspector harbored his own suspicions about you, your father was treated as the prime suspect in the case. The evidence you planted against him, despite not being found, led to a trial and a swift conviction. In prison, your elderly father's health deteriorated swiftly, and he died within a year. Your grief-stricken mother died soon after. Dunshiel House was yours, along with the fortune that came with it. However, George and Sophia found themselves unable to continue serving in the place after what had happened. As you spent many long, sleepless nights wandering through the rooms of the house, you found that its emptiness was reflected within yourself. You had become hollow inside, free of everything but the nightmares, continued to haunt you. Well, the most brilliant part of my plan didn't lead, but hey, we actually did succeed in committing a murder this time. So hey, we are making progress. That was baby games. I can do so much better than that. But first, we're gonna take a short break. When we return, I'm going to start trying some real gimmicky shit. See you all then. Is anyone there? Boo. Anyway, I'm back now. And that means it's time for the same person to die again. Alright, now last time, all of our attempts thus far have been very clumsy, very obvious attempts at frame-ups. That's, clearly functional, seeing as how we have in fact gotten away with murder once in the past. But it's not fun. It's not flashy. It lacks that certain level of pizzazz that I expect from someone trying to get away from murder. So now that we've got the formula down, I'm going to try doing something interesting. Alright, so here's the plan. I'm going to frame George Butler for the crime. And I'm going to make it look like he tried to frame me over a love triangle. I'd rather keep my coat because I want to use my fencing foil for the frame-up. Ah, well, I've been busy. Stan, I've been away from my family a lot since I started this job. You're here now, and I'm sure you're eager to meet with the others. Father's in the library on your left, Mother's in the parlor on your right. And since I'm getting tired of playing the boring goody two-shoes, implausibly perfect suspect, which somehow actually worked at making us less suspicious, even though everyone should be able to recognize something that obvious as an act. And because I want to provoke George into talking about, stuff. What if I want to join you for some pleasant company? Oh, I will be in the kitchen, preparing dinner. I'll, sound the bell when dinner is served. Mother? Now, let's not be too nice. Jennifer and I still have nothing to say about one another. Oh, you really do need to grow out of these childish feuds, both of you. Honestly, just listen to Nana. You bit each other's throats all the time back then, if I recall. By now, you should have realized she's your only sibling. There are few things more important than family. Anyway, you should go and talk to your father if you haven't already. Wish him a happy birthday. Or at least try to sound like you mean it. Okay, Ma and Pa don't really factor in here, but I'm pretty sure it'd be more suspicious if I didn't talk to them. Let's just be as perfunctory and obvious as possible. I have my own life now, Father. My own home. My own job. Ah, damn them both to hell. Do you think your pathetic little life really means anything? You are the last of a noble dynasty that stretches back hundreds of years. What does your life mean next to that? Everything. Yeah, the same snot. Alright, always were, boy. Obviously, I didn't give you enough discipline as a child. Oh, I can see you are determined to be impossible. I think better end this discussion. Now. You're the impossible one, boy, as always. But I think you're probably right about one thing. This conversation is pointless. And now it's over. Get out. Alright, good talk, Pops. Alright, hey Georgia, you got anything for me? Yeah, well, you see, your concerns are my concerns, George. Come on, I'm polite, I'm a nice guy. This new maid is quite domineering, then. She didn't seem that way to me. She is subtle in her ways, but mark my words, she must be running this house. Perhaps it's not a coincidence that your sister's mental health has become worse since Sophia arrived. I haven't seen anything out of the ordinary yet, but I have my suspicions. She is as cold and heartless a woman as I've ever known. I should say no more. Please excuse me, sir. Alright, what more do we have to talk about? Oh, there, my lovely. Has George been bothering you? I hope the old man George hasn't made you too uncomfortable. He has something of a reputation with the ladies. Oh, he's been an absolute gentleman. Very charming indeed. I'm sure the girls must have loved him back in the day. Oh, I'm sorry, I must admit. George is difficult to make a case against. But make no mistake, I will put him down the river for my crimes. I'm not a rat, I'm not. You know what? You didn't say anything last time, I'm feeling dirty. My, you do have a keen sense of smell if you noticed my scent. Perhaps you're the rat here. I am nothing like a rat. Filthy, filthy creatures. You used to have a pet rat, didn't you? But what I did to him. Oh, how he squeaked. Such great pain for such a little creature. What do you want to talk to me about, little rats? I want to let you know that your lifetime of tormenting me is about to come to an end. Ah, oh, you always wear a funny, proud little rat. Funny, smelly, proud, irritating little... Go away, I don't want to speak to you anymore. Alright, there's the panties. That's not a sentence I was particularly looking forward to saying. Okay, this is the important part. I want to grab this fencing sword. Now, make a case against George. Our best bet would, I think... Excuse me, sister. I dropped my wallet. It's time to dinner, it seems. Yes, ma'am? Pour me some more wine. Yep. George really likes pouring wine. But you see, the thing about George is... I'm afraid George just enjoys the view while pouring the wine, Mother. What? I never... I've noticed him staring at your breasts on many occasions when he does it. Jeffers, too. That's a lie! I mean, please don't make up such stories. I don't know where you get the nerve, boy. Don't worry, George, I don't believe this for a moment. Thank you, sir. An interfering little rat, isn't he, Daddy? Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, I must have had, yep, just can it. You two, meanwhile, are flirting with each other. Really, you two, you don't need to broadcast your affections so obviously in public. I'm sorry, Mr. Aaron, I never... Shush, right. Crawl into a hole somewhere. That's quite enough of your silly jokes, Aaron. Okay, that was progress, I guess. George is busy rifling through the cupboards. Now, if I'll just plant this here... You pull open one of the drawers of George's dress, find an incriminating item in there. And now, good old Georgie Porgy. I know the game isn't registering this, but I'd feel weird not just palling around the house for just a bit, just to make sure. It isn't too obvious that I went straight in and straight out. And I guess that's all the time we're getting. Once inside, there's no turning back. Alright, wish me luck. You take fencing sword out of your coat and ready yourself in the proper stance. Finally, all those years of training would be put to good use. As you lunge towards your sister, your strike is fast and true. She cries out in surprise as the blade pierces her heart, before falling to the ground in front of you. You drop the sword on the ground. Surely someone will have heard her scream. Need to leave this room quickly. Oh god, only 3 seconds. I did not expect that. Alright, we're pretty close to the crime scene, but so is George. Alright, here's Chief Inspector Lewis. Alright, let's see how unsuspicious we can look. Yep. Someday I actually am going to take that coat. Oh, my joke? Man, I thought George was still present. I hadn't realized he'd left yet. I thought he would have responded. I could have set up the idea that, like, we were in a love triangle and that was his motive for trying to frame me. Yes, it is entirely possible to misjudge these situations, isn't it? Well, could I try to put this? In the past, George has had a habit of sniffing around the ladies. He's a bit of a pervert, I'm afraid. I see. He has bothered them before? Oh yes, many times. I've covered for him so he wouldn't lose his job. Interesting. That is worth taking note of, I think. Later on, you had a conversation with your mother, Gloria. You were unwilling to talk about her. All my life I had been hearing about my sister's condition. It gets rather tiresome. I see. Still, it seems a bit uncaring of you. Yep, dear old dad is business as usual. Now, it's George's word against mine, and I outrank him. So I can just say that he's bitter. I don't know what he told you, but in reality he's quite obsessed with her. Oh? Oh, yes. Often becomes obsessed with women. It would have been troubling if it wasn't so pathetic. I see. Did you speak to your sister before dinner? Oh, that I did. Oh, you know. Small talk. Nothing of consequence. Spoke of the terrible weather and how long it had been since we last saw one another. Okay, then. I understand that during dinner you made an unseemly accusation towards the butler. Well, I felt I had to comment. His blatant leering at the women in this house has gone on for far too long. I see. Did he ever leer at your sister? How, all the time? Interesting. At one point, you made the accusation that your maid and sister were in some sort of inappropriate relationship. That seems obvious enough to me, the way those two were carrying on. My parents were just oblivious to it. You believe your sister was in a lesbian relationship with the maid? Almost certainly. Interesting. Now, I need to ascertain your location at the time of your sister's death. Alright, they saw me in the foyer, so... As I said earlier, we have completed our initial search of the property. While searching George's room, we found a pair of undergarments which have your sister's initials on them. Can you give any reason why those would be there unless he stole them? No, I cannot. So why are you smiling at that? Oh, no reason. I am curious about the murder weapon. The sword which was used to murder your sister belongs to you. I understand you are quite expert in its use. Well, that doesn't mean I did this. No, but it certainly makes you more of a suspect, doesn't it? It is all very interesting. Can we not at least acknowledge the possibility that I'm being framed? Like that's a thing I can do. Is there a particularly good reason they can't do it to me? That feels like a really obvious oversight game. If you insist. I'll be completely honest with you now, Mr. Bruce. Your behavior this evening has given me cause for suspicion. While there's some suspicion regarding your father, I don't currently regard him as a serious suspect. But I must also consider the very weighty amount of evidence that stands against the butler. I'm slightly curious about the maid, but I doubt she was involved in this. Given the weapon that was used, obviously suicide is not a realistic possibility. And that's what happens next. I am going to ask you to accompany me to the station for further questioning. Am I under arrest? Not currently, Mr. Bruce. Unless you want it that way. I am going to place the butler under arrest. Though you were brought in for further questioning, the police determined that there was not enough evidence to arrest you. George the butler, as the only one to be arrested, remained the prime suspect. After a long and difficult trial, he was finally convicted of the murder of your sister in a very controversial verdict. The case made national newspapers, with headlines aplenty claiming the butler did it. With no other heirs remaining, your father reversed his plans to cut you out of his will. When your parents died, you inherited everything. Dunshiel House was yours, along with the fortune that came with it. However, Sophia the maid found herself unable to continue serving in the place after what had happened. As you spent many long, sleepless nights wandering throughout the rooms of the house, you found that its emptiness was reflected within yourself. You would become hollow inside, free of everything but the nightmares that continued to haunt you. But hey, we got away with murder using a weapon that belongs to us. I wish the game would make that a bit more apparent. Okay, there's one more thing I would like to test out before we move on to the next The Deed game. So the way the game phrases its mechanic is you can pick up 2 items. Now the obvious answer there would be... would be that we can take, one murder weapon and a piece of evidence to frame someone else. But what if, instead, we took 2 pieces of evidence? Wouldn't that be interesting? We could always commit murder using our bare hands. And we don't need to conceal our bare hands, so you can finally take our coat. Yes, take the blasted wet thing off me. You're new, aren't you? Sophia's my name. I recognize you from your pictures, Mr. Aaron. I'm not new exactly. I've been employed by your father for almost a year. It's just that you have never visited before. Well, my work keeps me very busy, unfortunately. I understand. I've been away from my family a lot since I started this job. You are here now. I'm sure you are eager to meet with the others. Your father's in the library on your left, and your mother is in the parlor, which is on your right. Your sister's upstairs in her room, I think. Thank you for your help, Sophia. You are very welcome, Mr. Aaron. I will be in the kitchen preparing dinner. Sound a bell when it's ready. Alright. The best case scenario for this setup would be to frame our father using leather tawse, a lot of speak about how violent he is. Oh, you gave me dozens of beatings, Father. I remember every single one of them. I don't remember if we've seen his dialogue yet. Did you ever consider trying another method, perhaps? Not for a moment. You're always a snide little weasel. The best I could do was to beat someone out of you. You should be thanking me for it, not trying to condemn me. I think I've heard enough from you. Get out. Alright, good talk, you old bastard. Yep. Do the most sensible, normal talk with Mum we can possibly imagine. Now, we don't really have anything to say to Aaron, or We're Aaron. But we can talk to the maid to further plant the idea that Papa's very violent, unstable. And after we go talk to our sister... So we do have confirmation that she just won't respond to anything we say. My condition? What condition? I don't have a condition. You won't have me sent away, don't you? It'll work. It won't, I tell you. Go away. I don't want to speak to you anymore. And if we use our second item to grab this set of pantsu... Again, the bell invites me, this time to dinner. Nope, George is really upset when other people pour wine. Just let him pour the damn wine, would you? It's his job. You stay out of it, boy. If your mother wants to pour the damn wine. You should get some fine cheese to go with your vintage wine. Happy birthday, Father. Let's hope it will be one to remember. Alright, the only place where these panties would be suspicious, with the person we're trying to frame, is in this guy's room. Now, if we go over and just use our bare hands... That's not gonna be fun. Who needs weapons, anyway? You can best her with your hands alone. You creep up behind her, suddenly lunge forward, putting your gloved hands firmly around her throat. She gasps and struggles, smashing into the chair, then the desk. Finally, you manage to get a good grip, and you continue to choke her from behind until finally she goes limp in your arms. You let her drop to the ground. It was a noisy struggle. You won't have much time to get out of this room before someone investigates. George, talk to me. Did you hear that, sir? Right, that felt nice and clean. Not a defensive wound on her body to be seen, so there's no physical evidence. So the tours may require some explanation, Mr. Bruce. Oh, this? It belongs to my father, actually. He used to beat me with it. I was going to take it home and burn it. I can understand that. Are these beatings regular? Yes, and severe. I see. Now that's out of the way, let's move on to the interview. Perfect. As you know, I have already spoken to everyone else who was present in the house at the time of your sister's death. We've also now completed our initial search. Oh, you see, my father, oh, bless his soul, he was a tyrant. I wasn't that concerned, really. I was tired of hearing about my sister's complaints. Oh, everyone in this household. He domineers. He hurts us all so much. He treats the servants poorly. He loses his temper constantly. Oh, you see, I was in the storage room. George will be my alibi. George did mention to me that you were in there with him. I mean, you didn't arrive until after the murder, so, you know. As I said earlier, we have completed our initial search of the property. God damn it, why don't you ever search the parents' room? Isn't that obvious? No cause for suspicion, evidence against our fathers. There's a question or two regarding the butler, but personally I don't buy it. Too cliche. Given the weapon that was used, obviously suicide is not a realistic possibility. However, as for what happens next, you can go for now, but I would appreciate it if you did not leave town. I may have more questions for you later. I'll be arresting your father shortly. And I believe we've seen this ending already. Prison, your elderly father's health deteriorated, your mother died soon afterwards, the servants all left. Stigmatized property, the tragedy. You had become hollow inside, free of everything but the nightmares that continued to haunt you. So you have it. That was The Deed, a murder simulator. I love the idea behind this game, but in practice, this wasn't very interesting. However, I wish I could, raise my arm up. However, this game does have 2 sequels, and I really hope they're more interesting because we'll be playing them too. Until then, I hope you all enjoyed this stream, and I will be planning more murders with you. Please don't imitate anything you see on the stream in real life. In the future. Goodbye.